What's been happening in Prime? This is going to give you a little bit more of what's going on behind the scenes. So Joe's going to run this. So can we have the first slide, please, Joe? So just for some stats, they've been muted again. So just for some stats then, there have been 66 events, and that involves 60 tutors. Most of those have been online, but we've heard that we have been out. Rebecca, you've heard from who's been out, and there have been one or two other folks going out. About 1,000 delegates we've been teaching. Now that does represent a considerable reduction on what we'd normally do, which would be 4,000 or 5,000 that we've been teaching. But it's been the start of something which, as John was saying right at the beginning, is a new era, a new vision in a sense, or not a new vision, but a new way of seeing the vision fulfilled. So 14 countries we've been involved with. One thing we've been involved with a lot more is in the UK than we have before, especially with the Compassion Without Burnout program. And the hours comes to 33.7 days of teaching. Next slide, please, Joe. So within this year too, most of you probably be aware that the trustees have come together and put together a strategy in one document, which has really been helpful. And most of you were asked if you wanted to comment on that. So in October, we had an away day to start looking at the strategy and how we would implement it. It's being implemented in that we've been obviously changing all the time this year and adapting all the time. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But the themes of the strategic document are widening our international focus, but especially doing that online. So looking at the benefits or the potential of integrating with other groups online. How we prepare our tutors and support them when we don't see them face to face at the moment. That's been a bit of an issue, and I'll come to that a bit later. How we can teach and learn in a new environment. Leadership development, which we haven't done a lot of, but I think one thing that we ought to say right at the moment, and that's been apparent, and I didn't really appreciate right at the beginning, is that we can now connect with so many more younger people. And we have an opportunity to bring folks on in a way which we never had before online. And actually the Kenya students is an example of that. Those students who were invited to join Emma's Global Health Project were chosen. And I know that Kizito and others in Kenya were doing it, looking at them as potential future Christian leaders, not necessarily in Prime, but Christian leaders full stop. So we have here a way of looking forward and saying, well, who are the folks that Lord is leading us to be involved with, to mentor online, rather than waiting for us to go and see them face to face. External partnerships I'll come to in a minute, but they've been strengthened over the last 6 or 9 months. Governance and operations, well, we're doing that on the hoof in that, how do we see governance working out in this new online virtual environment? How do we look and see, well, especially to be able to ensure quality of teaching, quality of presentations and materials when we don't quite know what's happening, when we're having lots of online connections going on. And all this is underpinned by prayer, and we still have our weekly Thursday morning prayer time, which everybody is invited to. It's at 10 o'clock UK time. Everybody's invited to join that, and if you have something you particularly want to share with us for prayer that's going on, please feel free. to join that. That goes out with the weekly prayer bulletin every week that Amy sends out. Okay, next slide, please, Joe. So a bit about the online tutor training. In a year ago, we had some online tutor training in the UK, which was tutor preparation. Then we had our Prime Go March event, and now this one, which is around tutor training. But initial tutor training has been a little bit more interesting and developed further. Next point, please, Joe. So last month, Prime Australia felt they would be good to do some tutor training. They had some interest. And so Martin Leeper and I joined them, and we did some tutor training together, which was very rich. I know Martin will refer to it later on, but we had 6 different folks from 6 different countries. Naturally, because it was based around Australia, they tended to be in the East Asia, and as well as Australia, one from Tasmania, a real range of ages, some very mature friends who we'd had contacts with before, and some really young folks. And we dipped our toes into how do we train these folks to be prime tutors for the future. Next point, please, Joe. And it was very, very, I think, encouraging to see how people responded. And so we are now looking at how we do global tutor training for the future. And we're going to have some discussions next month and into the new year about how taking that forward, because no longer do we need to have a place for folks to come to for a couple of days. We can do this over, as we did with Australia, over 2 weeks or maybe longer. We can embed whole person care along with that. We can have a program which takes people from understanding the basis of what Prime is about to being potential tutors in the future. So this is for your prayer, please, about how we would take this forward. But also, if you're interested in being involved in the future, if you're interested in teaching the teachers and you've got experience of that, please feel free to contact me or contact the office, because we will undoubtedly need tutors to train the tutors going forward, whether that's based in the UK or based in Australia or based in Kenya or based in Nigeria. Having folks from different cultures and different backgrounds is really helpful for that process, because it gives you a true multicultural presentation, since people who are going to be teaching for Prime in the future will be teaching in different cultures, probably people at the same time from different cultures. Next slide, please, Joe. So just to give you a little bit of feedback of how that went, we've got Zuman here, who's going to, who actually was the African representative on our tutor training with Australia. He comes from Jos in northern Nigeria. I expect he'll introduce himself, but he joined our tutor training in October.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zumnan Gimba from Nigeria. So on the 9th and 16th of October this year, I was part of an online training organized by Prime Australia. It was a wonderful 2 weeks of training with people from different parts of the world, from different time zones. It was nice to get to know more about Prime, also to receive teaching on some of the cross-cultural challenges, empathy, Jesus the teacher, and then things like having breakout sessions to discuss some of these topics in depth, raise more questions, discuss scripture and encourage each other, and also to break out also and work in groups, looking at different tasks. Particularly the second week, where we in our group had to do a role play concerning some of the difficulties about COVID, vaccine acceptance, and all that. And it was fun working with people like Lois from Timor-Leste, Alison from Laos, and Martin joined us at the last minute when Lois couldn't make it. But then Owen and Richard and every other person, where it was such a wonderful company of people, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly in that training. And it was nice that despite the fact that it was an online training, but it was still very rich. The opportunity to discuss in breakout rooms, or to use the whiteboard and share our thoughts, to ask questions, were very much like having a physical meeting. So I really enjoyed myself, and I look forward to having more of such experiences. Thank you very much.
So that's tutor training and the need to develop that in the future. But as most of you probably know, we're also developing online teaching teams. Specifically, Emma mentioned earlier on the issues of getting a teaching team together online. And we learnt through those challenges that how important it is to folks to gel, to get to know each other, to appreciate each other online before they start teaching together, because it's much more challenging to do that than it is face-to-face, as she said, when you happen to be sharing a hotel or going on a flight and you can chat to each other and so on. So one of the things we felt earlier on this year was the need to actually look at specifically developing some of the embryonic online teaching teams that we already had. And so these are the 6 that we have ended up with, mainly because they are the sort of core prime topics, the things that we concentrate on. And you'll be hearing more about these tomorrow. But just to say at this stage that if your heart is for any of these topics and you feel you could join one of these groups, you will be very, very welcome. It's really important that these groups are there simply not just to bring teaching, but actually to develop the sort of prime family in that topic, develop relationship with each other, and also bring on new tutors. So can we go to the next slide, please, Joe? So why are we doing it? First point. Next. So one thing that this does is to enable us to have a process in which we can move on the requests that we have coming forward. If you have a request for some online teaching, putting together a team every single time, it is quite a headache. Whereas if we have an existing team, not only does that enable us to respond to requests quickly, and often requests are much quicker for online teaching than they are for when we used to go away, but also it means we can go out there and say, like, to organizations like ICMDA, NCFI and others, to say, look, we have this team, we have this availability. If there are any of your colleagues, your members who would like to be avail themselves of this, please make contact with us. And with ICMDA, we can do that very quickly, almost within minutes now. So as I said, the second reason is to build and grow teams so they can get to know each other and support each other from the beginning, rather than teams jumping about with their personnel and people coming in and out. We actually have a sort of relationship we trust that we would have had if we were all going out to a challenging country together. Next point, please, Joe. And it's the training. We've always had a problem in Prime with what do we do with folks who are new tutors who've just done tutor training? How do we start getting them involved? And this is an obvious way of doing it. So once they've involved, they would be offered to join one of those teaching teams, initially maybe as an observer, just to take a smaller part in what's going on. But as they grow in their skills and experience, they are able to take more of a frontline place. But also it gives them some confidence in their teaching when they do end up going out, which we really pray we will be going out in the future to places around the world. They have some confidence. They already know the team they're going out with. It's obvious advantages in doing that. And the last point, please, Joe. And the last reason for doing this is that, as most of you know, and we'll see in a minute, the Prime has got a resources hub. And as each team develop their online resources, they will have the ability to be able to populate that hub, because each team will have a topic or have a home within that hub in which they can place their teaching for everybody's benefit. So that's a resource for PowerPoints and other resources to go in the future. Okay, next slide, please, Joe. So links with others, we've heard about these. So you've heard about what we've been doing, and it's been really encouraging to work with Prime Australia. It's not just been in the tutor training. You'll hear from tomorrow. Martin and others have been involved in palliative care teaching in Indonesia. There's been a new baby Prime Indonesia flourish in lockdown. And so by partnering with each other around the world has been very fruitful and rich. And, you know, I've got to know folks in Prime Australia, as has Martin, which I didn't know very well before. CMF Kenya we worked with before in way we've been doing joint tutor training with them, joint programs with them in Kenya, but also now with the Global Health Elective Emma talked and presented, we have got potential of having new sorts of partnerships which work in different ways online. So we actually have our partners in different countries working online with us. And ICMDA invited us to do one of their Thursday seminars, and through that we've been able to grow, or partly through that we've been able to grow Compassion Without Burnout. But as I said just now, Peter Saunders in ICMDA has said that if you want us to cascade anything down through our network of either an event that we're putting on or our offer of teaching or whatever it is, we can now do that. So we can reach Christian medics and dental folks in 82 different countries almost instantaneously. I wouldn't have thought about that a year ago or 18 months ago. Okay, next slide, Emma. Sorry, next slide, Joe. So Joey's going to take over now and talk about a bit about the resources that we've got on the Prime Hub, and then go on to some other things.
Hi, so you're now over to me. Hi, everybody. I think I've met quite a lot of you. I've certainly had email conversations with quite a lot more. My role, in case you didn't know, is to be the operations manager. So I head up the team that does the administration and the other things that happen behind the scenes. So I was just going to mention to you some of the new resources that we've been able to develop or to complete in some cases over the course of the pandemic. Values Added has existed for a while. It's a similar program to an Alpha course, if you're familiar with that. So it's designed to be a small group sessions on a weekly or an occasional basis. We now have 7 full modules of materials for that, thanks to Dave Quick primarily, and contributions from others. We have done quite a lot of work on our Compassion Without Burnout program across the year. Some of that has been face-to-face and largely in the UK across the year. So it's running in quite a lot of locations. Tim Patton is now heading that up for us. We've got a teaching film, which is now on our YouTube channel. And we've got some teaching resources that we're about to make live for folk to use in their own situations as well. And then we have our palliative care materials developed by Martin and his team. And those are ready to be finalised completely by us in the office. And then we'll get those up on our Hub Resources website which again is something that we've been working on across the course of the pandemic. So the Hub website, for those of you who haven't yet visited it, is a companion website to our main website. It is the address for it is on the screen. It's www.prime-hub.org, and it's restricted for our Prime tutors. So we use this now to share our resources. We will probably put the conference resources from this event on this website, but it has some other things as well. So it has downloadable materials for some of our programs that can be edited and used in your situation. It has some advice and some teaching for remote teaching, i.e. teaching on Zoom. It has our Prime calendar. It has a prayer wall that includes the prayers that we are currently concerning ourselves with, and a lot of other information as well. Rob had asked me to give you an actual live demonstration of that, but we're having a little bit of trouble with it this evening. So maybe we'll try and fit that in tomorrow for you. If you would like access to that site and you don't yet, please drop us an email into the office and any of the team will be able to help you with that. So this is the team, or at least this was the team at the beginning of the pandemic. Rollo, who is male, so you'll know who he is, retired last summer and we still miss him badly. And Nikki, who is the lady stood to his left in the picture, has also just left. She's going back to do some, to help with drugs testing for COVID vaccines and things like that. She's a statistician by trade, came to us for 6 weeks and ended up staying 4 years, and we miss her too. So our operations team is now Amy at the back, who's here tonight, myself trying to hide off the picture, and Janet, who does our finances. We are mulling over what we need to do, or if we need to do anything to support the operations team, what type of role that might be, and how that might fit best going forwards. And I get the short straw. I get to do the finance chat. So this is our budget for this year. Our income, in terms of the income that we are fairly confident will come in, is £47,000. Our expenditure, which does include all of our expected expenditure, is 65. It doesn't take a genius to work out that there's a gap. Now, I've been with Prime for 16 years now, and there have been years when our budget has looked like this. It looked like this last year. In fact, God provided, and the stock market very kindly increased our reserves, and we ended up with a surplus. So that's our financial situation. It looks a little iffy at the beginning of the year, but we have a good God and he does provide for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. That's a very quick overview of what's been happening. I just have to say thank you to Jo and to Amy and to Margaret. They've been absolutely wonderful adapting to what we're doing and adapting online. Jo hasn't mentioned that we are totally redoing. We are re-looking at our whole IT infrastructure and how we go forward. I'm looking at a form of CRM to try and make much of what we do, and at the end of the day, easier with less forms and paperwork. But the change to do that and to have everything done online, so you submit stuff online and the whole thing integrates better with the systems that we have, including emails, is going to be a large piece of work. So pray for Jo and the team that as that goes forward into next year, into the new year, it's going to be smooth. And we do need extra support, and we will need extra support in the office. So also pray, please, for the right support, the right person or people, for God to provide what we need going forward.